Hi, this is Dr. MJ coming to you from beautiful Boston, Massachusetts. This is the Women in Dentistry podcast, where we feature women in dentistry making waves and leading the industry through the next decade. I am your host, Dr. Mary Jane Hanlon, a former dental assistant, dental hygienist, and now dentist. I am very pleased to introduce you today to Miss Amanda Hill. Amanda is an enthusiastic speaker, innovative consultant, and award-winning author, a sought-after thought leader contributing invaluable and inspiring insights into the current trends in dentistry. She's affectionately known as the Waterline Warrior, and she brings over 25 years of clinical dental hygiene and education to dentistry. Amanda strives to make topics in dentistry accurate, accessible, and fun. It is now my pleasure to bring you to my interview with Amanda Hill. Amanda, it's so great to have you on the show today. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to be with us. And my audience knows you, as I do, as being a prolific speaker and really significant presence in the hygiene world. And I can't wait to share your story with the audience and how you got into doing what you're doing. So without any further ado, please jump into your journey into dentistry.
All right. Well, thank you so much for inviting me to be a guest. I'm excited to be here today. You know, it's funny, my journey into dentistry was accidental. I think like many things, great things that happen in life, they happen by happy accidents. And all the way back when I was 15 years old, I called my pediatric dentist and said to him, hey, Dr. Kramer, are you hiring for your office? Because I thought it would be really fun to have a job answering the phone. Because back in the day, that's, you know, we didn't have text, we answered the phone.
Of course.
And so I went in for an interview, he hired me, and I showed up for my first day of work after school, came after school in my school clothes, and he hands me an apron. And he's like, and now you're a dental assistant. And I'm like, I thought I was answering the phone. And so there I was in the back. In the state of Virginia, you need no training to be a dental assistant. And so on the job trained, I was working in, pediatrics. And so, learned how to pass instruments and asked kids what flavor fluoride they wanted and prophy paste, and learned how to sterilize instruments and really, liked that environment. And I watched what the hygienists were doing in that practice. And I was like, oh, I like what they do. Like they both worked part-time. They had families, I felt like they had a balance in their life. And so I was like, I think that's what I want to do. And so I headed off to hygiene school at Old Dominion University. So, and in 4 years, had a bachelor's degree in dental hygiene and started that dental hygiene journey. And practiced hygiene for, 20, almost a little over 20 years.
Wow.
And my husband was, got married, had 3 kids, did part-time hygiene. Sometimes it was as little as 2 days a month, and sometimes it was full-time, just kind of depended on what was happening in our lives and where the kids were at and how gone my husband was. And so then we had moved to Europe for a few years. We came back to the States, and I had a friend from hygiene school, one of my hygiene school besties, call me, and she's like, hey, Amanda, do you want to go to this RDH Under One Roof conference? And I happened to live in the DC metro area at the time, and that's where it was that year. And I remember thinking I'm a hygienist. I don't spend money on my education. That's the dentist's job. Like, I remember thinking that,
wow.
Right. And thinking, that's not my job. That's my dentist's job to pay for those things. Cause really my continuing ed to that point was we had gone to conferences, but it was always, we went to a conference, the dentist brought the team, or we went to CEs where like a referring, orthodontist or, periodontist put on, or, I took the online stuff. Right. So that's kind of what I knew from CE. But it was my good friend, Jenny, and I really wanted to hang out with Jenny, and it was in my neighborhood, in my neck of the woods. So I was like, sure, let's go. And so I went to RDH Under One Roof, and I remember walking in and I was like, whoa, like this place is so cool. And we had the first day of classes, and I'm watching these hygienists talk, and it blew my mind what dental hygiene could look like.
Yeah.
I'd always been a learner. I've always been the magazine reader. I've always been super curious, but to see what many of these clinicians were doing was so awesome. And then that evening, they opened the exhibit hall floor, and I walked into the exhibit hall floor, and I swear it was like my Disney World. Like, I was like, this is my happy place in life. And I walked from, booth to booth, and I talked to the exhibitors, and I got free samples and I learned about kind of these new products and new things that were on, going on. And I got super excited about dental hygiene. And then towards the end of that booth time, I happened to walk up to a booth. It was the Dental Post booth, which is a nationwide job board. And I started talking to the woman at the booth, and I was telling her how I had found my job that I had right then with Dental Post. It was really cool. It's a great app you can use. And, I searched dental hygiene jobs near me, and Dental Post popped up, and I went on there and found a job. Boom. Like, it was great. I loved it. So I was telling her all about it and how much I liked it. And at the end of that conversation, she says to me, "Do you want to work for me?"
Wow.
And out of my mouth came, "Yes, I'd love to." In my head is, what are you talking about? What is she talking about? You're a dental hygienist. You don't. And I just, we exchanged numbers. I walked away. I remember calling my husband. I was like, "I think I just got a new job." And he's like, "Of course you did." And so that started kind of my toe out of the op. So I was still working part-time in my office in DC, but then I started to work for Dental Post, and I got to start going to different dental meetings and working the booth.
Yeah.
And then Dental Post also had this job talk that they do. They'll go into schools and talk to students about how to interview and resume writing and all those great things. And so I did that a few times, and I realized, holy cow, I love speaking. And then I started writing some blogs for the platform, and realized, like, if you'd asked me if I was any good at writing, I'd have said, no, I'm terrible at writing. Started writing blogs. I actually had fun, and I was really good at it. And so as I started to go to these meetings, I started to network more and meeting people, within our industry. I met Jackie Sanders at that point. She was coming on to RDH magazine. She said, "Hey, Amanda, do you want to write for me?" And again, that voice in my head said, you're not good at writing. And out of my mouth said, yes, I would love to. And I figured it out. And so from that, it just started to snowball into more opportunities, me saying yes, even though that voice in my head was saying no, and trying out things. And some things I loved, and some things I didn't love so much. So the next time, maybe I wouldn't do that. And then COVID happened, and I had already started to write some articles about dental unit water lines. And a dental waterline company reached out to me and said, "Hey, we'd love for you to do a webinar with Henry Schein on dental unit water lines." They had no idea I had never done this before.
Good.
But out of my mouth came,
yes,
I'd love to. And I wrote my first program. And thankfully, I met Sandra Berger, and Sandra Berger taught me everything I needed to know about writing good quality CE, compliant CE. And so I wrote a CE, and then I presented it. And I, again, realized, holy cow, this is fun. Like, I love this. And so just continued to do more of that, more just trying on things, trying out different opportunities, meeting more people, and seeing kind of what was out there. And so now I'm to the point now where I really am a full-time speaker and writer. I have 2 monthly columns that I write. I speak all over the country. I probably travel 3 times a month to travel to different conferences. In fact, I just got to talk about full circle moment. 2 weeks ago, I just got to do the opening mega session at RDH Under One Roof.
Unbelievable. Congratulations.
So 6 years prior was my first Under One Roof. And 6 years later, I'm doing the opening mega session to 2,500 hygienists. And I told them the story. I told them that story about how just that idea of being curious and saying yes, even though the voice in my head said no, you don't know what you're talking about, and just trying things on, how that has changed. It completely opened this world that I never, ever even knew. I didn't even know this was an option in life. I was in my op. And so thank you. Yes, it was an epic experience. It was so great. I loved every second of it. In fact, I think I'm still giddy from it.
I'm so glad that you told that journey in exactly the timeline that you did it in, because, young women out there, they don't understand how many opportunities they have with even doing micro-credentialing, like doing a laser course and getting credentialed in that, doing biofilm reduction. I can't remember the name of the company.
EMS. Yeah. GBT. Yeah.
Yep. And just little things like that can make a humongous difference in their satisfaction for their job that they do every day.
Absolutely. One of the certifications I have is a CDICP, a certified in dental infection prevention and control, because infection control is one of the things I talk about. So I have that certification. Absolutely. You dive in and you learn more, and then you feel a little more confident. But I got to tell you, I don't think we ever hit a point, or at least I don't think I'll ever hit a point where I'm like, okay, I know all the things. Actually, I think if you ever think that you know all the things, you should go back and learn more things, because you're wrong.
Right. You're right. I think it's constant education.
Yes.
And even to this day, I mean, continuing education is what we live for, right? I mean, seriously, thank goodness we have the requirement. I beat 40 hours every year because I just love learning.
Without a doubt. Yeah.
Right. And it's one of those things. If you're committed to being good at your job, you don't find that a burden. You find that exciting to go, okay, what's new this year? And learning how to do a scanner, having hygienists do scanning for hard and soft night guards in their room. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It takes less time to do that than it would if you had to reschedule that patient into the dentist chair and have the assistant do it.
For those
right?
goopy impressions too.
Oh my gosh. Well, congratulations. That's amazing. Mega session is not anything to discard. That is a big deal that they wanted to have you as the main speaker. So congratulations. That's
Thank
a
you.
really cool thing.
Thank you. It was just epic. I just can't even tell you how epic it was. It was so good.
Yeah. And just being up there in front of all of your colleagues and
Right.
having them recognize you for that. That's awesome.
And Jenny was there. Jenny was there in the front row, which was great.
There you go. She got to enjoy it too, 6 years later. That's awesome. That's awesome. All right. So tell me one thing that people would be surprised to know about you.
Maybe that I was born in Japan.
Cool.
Yeah. So I grew up as an Air Force kid.
Mhm.
And then married a Navy guy. But yeah, so I was born overseas. But I can't say that I remember any of it. We left when I was 2. So I'd like to go back one day.
Yeah, I was going to say, have you been back?
No, it's on my list. It's on my list of places to go back to, but I haven't made it back.
Well, you never know. You might get a speaking engagement there someday.
That would be super cool. If anybody in Japan's listening, I'll come.
There you go. All right. One of the things that the basis for this podcast is about confidence and building confidence in us as women. That imposter syndrome is present with all of us. It doesn't matter how successful we look on the outside. We all have a bit of that imposter syndrome, and that no in the back of your head was, I call them frick and frack, and they live on my shoulders and they're constantly bickering with one another. And I have to do some strength training to keep them under control, right?
Yeah, it's huge.
So it is huge. So obviously today you present well, you look amazing, walking around and doing all the writing and the stuff that you're doing. So have you always been confident, or has it been a journey just like it has been for me? I mean, if you were confident right from the beginning, good for you. You must have had great family network. That
I think if you asked my peers, like if you stopped and asked people I went to dental hygiene school with, in fact, there was 4 of them at RDH Under One Roof this year, and it was fun because we got to have lunch. If you asked them if I was confident back then, they would be like, oh my gosh, yes, like you had it. But I got to tell you, if you asked my brain if I was confident, that would be a different story. And it's funny because I call the voice in my head Nellie. Do you remember Little House on the Prairie? Do you remember Nellie?
Oh yeah.
With the ringlet curls. She was so mean. Man, the stuff she would say to Laura Ingalls Wilder was so mean. Right. So I often call her Nellie, and I will literally talk to her. I'm sure if you hung out with me in my office, you would think that I might have some issues, but
I'm sure I wouldn't think that way, because I just told you about frickin' frack.
There you go. Yeah, frickin' frack. Like I will talk back to them and be like, that is not true. That is not true. But that has taken a long time, and that has taken a lot of work to be able to harness those feelings of inadequacy. And they still come back. I'm not saying that I had them under control, because standing up on stage in front of tons of people, there's still a voice in my head that's like, this sucks. Nobody likes what you're saying. And then it's over and everybody does. So
everybody's standing up and clapping for you.
Right? Exactly. So there is that voice, but I do think, I love that you said exercise or strength, like that takes every day working on building up that positive part of your mindset. In fact, one of those things I spoke about when I spoke at the opening mega session was I talked about the power of a positive mindset versus a negative mindset, and then
Absolutely.
and how it's really a muscle, like you talked about. The more that you can you exercise that positive mindset, and the more that it doesn't mean the negative thoughts don't come in my head, but I'm able to squash them faster. I'm able to box them up faster and be like, no, that's not the case. And this is the way we're going with these thoughts. And so, but again, it's, and you have your good days and you have your bad days, but I really think, I think I'm getting so much better at it, being able to give myself the grace that I would give. One of the things I talked about, again,
Your
the
best
mega session,
friends.
my best
right?
friends, or I talked about your inner kindergartner, your inner 5-year-old, that sweet little baby, that was so curious and asked so many questions and just wanted to be everybody's friend, right? You would never say those things to her, to your little 5-year-old self, that sometimes we do say to ourselves. You would say, oh my gosh, you're doing so well. Just keep trying. It's okay. You don't get everything right. All those kind of things. Think about that as a way to maybe give yourself the grace when things aren't going exactly like you hope they would.
Unbelievable. That tidbit right there is worth $1 million, because that's so true. We don't even think about that little girl that's stuck in there and how much we've accomplished. So you look back on your life, right?
Exactly.
And it should be, oh my God, good
right?
for you. Oh
Like,
my
way
gosh,
to
look how
go.
we became.
Way to go. Like, if that little 5-year-old you watched you and all you're doing right now, she would be like, oh my gosh, I can't wait for that. It's exciting.
Yeah.
And so I think when we are able to reframe some of those things, as opposed to looking at somebody else and be like, but she has that and they have that and they're doing, no.
Mm-mm.
Pause and really think about, how do you measure success? And so there's this great book called The Gap and the Gain. Have you ever read that one by Benjamin
I have
Hardy?
not, but I just heard about it.
I love it. It's such a good one, but it talks about how we measure success. And I think often us in dentistry, like, we tend to be a little perfectionist type A.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And so we want to measure things to the the perfection, that perfect centric occlusion, or in hygiene world, like the no stain and absolutely no calculus. I have news for you. You didn't get all the calculus. Sorry, but you tried. Good job. But instead of looking at where did we start from, and it goes back to that little, that little person. Like, think about how you would encourage a toddler who's learning how to walk. You'd never be like, oh, you only took 2 steps, man. I mean, it's the whole room. I mean, the room is the goal here, kid. You kind of stink. No, those 2 steps, you're like,
that? We can't even imagine singing it.
Right. And so celebrating those little achievements that you make that get you, because that's how you get to the goal. You don't. I didn't go to bed after that first Under One Roof 6 years ago, and I wasn't the mega session speaker the next year. No, I've worked really hard over 6 years, and I've done some scary stuff. I mean, stuff that scared the tar out of me. I mean, stuff that in my head was like, what did you get yourself into? You're not smart enough for this. You can't do this. And I've had to say, no, I can do this. And calm that voice down and say, we can do this. We're just going to take it little bits at a time. And I play all these silly brain tricks with myself. Like, when I'm writing an article, like, you only have to write this section, Amanda, just this one little section. You can write a section. Oh yeah, I can write a section. As opposed to, you need to write this 3-page article, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. And so just taking it a little bit at a time makes things seem more achievable. And when you see those successes, you get that little endorphin rush. So then you can do the next part and the next part and the next part. And then
it's done.
It's done. Yeah.
So I'm going to share with you something I learned recently. It's called stop, snap, and switch. Okay. When a negative thought comes into your mind, you're going to stop and you're going to say something like you just said. No, that's not true. I'm not listening to you. Snap, and then you switch it to the other hand because you don't want that to happen again.
I love it. You're switching that mindset. I love it. That's great.
Mindset to a positive mindset. So that was, I learned that there's a woman who wrote a book called Stop, Snatch, and Switch. Her name is Krista Mayshaw. and she's a content creator on Instagram. I happen to see it and I'm like, oh my gosh, that is brilliant. So I share that with you in case you want to use that to get Nellie to calm down a little bit.
I think that's a great idea. I love it. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Great, great discussion. Okay, single best piece of advice you've ever gotten, and from whom?
Oh, well, my mother-in-law. Absolute best piece of advice ever. So the day before my husband and I got married, she sits me down and she says, Amanda, I'm going to give you this piece of advice, and I promise from here out, I'm not going to be that kind of person that meddles and gives you advice. And truly, she never did. But she said, there's going to be a day where you're going to stare across the breakfast table and you're going to gaze into your husband's eyes. And you're going to think, what the hell was I thinking? she said, it is okay. She's like, we all feel that way. And what the issue is, and this is the big part of the learning, and the part of the learning that I didn't get till just recently. So I heard this lesson 28 years ago. I've been married for 28 years. But the biggest piece that I just now understand is, she said, you're not pouring into yourself at that point. And I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know what that meant until probably this year. It's taken me that long to understand what that, because she said, go on a walk, just do something physical, just kind of get out. And I thought she just kind of meant separate myself and kind of, shake it off and let it go. But what I now know through this journey of, self-discovery and those kind of things, really learning and pouring into myself, is that she's right. When you hit that point where you're looking, anyway, this doesn't even have to be a marriage. This could be a coworker. This could be a friend. This could be your kid. It doesn't matter. Oftentimes when we stare at them and we see that and we're like, I don't like you, or, often the issue isn't them.
Yeah, no.
The issue is us. And the issue is how we're treating ourselves and how we're taking care of ourselves, because we often take care of ourselves, take care of others in spite of ourselves. And then we get
last.
Yeah, and we get angry about it. And most of the time, they didn't even ask for what we were pouring into them. Right. And so I think it's just funny that I've kind of figured that out this year, and really to understand, like, oh, this is what it means to take care of myself. Like, get up in the morning and do my exercise first. Like, it's the whole oxygen mask theory, which we all know, right? You put on yours before you help others. I am the person that up until probably recently would have been dead, passed out in the airplane, but everyone else would have had their oxygen mask on, right? Because how dare I be so selfish to take care of myself? But really, what she was telling me 28 years ago, the night before my wedding, was that it is not selfish to take care of yourself. And in fact, it is necessary to take care of yourself. And that piece of advice is, it just means it's everything, I think.
That is probably one of the better pieces of advice that I've heard on the show. That is outstanding. It's like leaving me speechless.
It's
so
big.
True, because we actually, other people are a reflection of us.
Yes.
In our position at that moment in time.
Right.
It has nothing to do with them.
No.
Wow, that's pretty good. That is really good.
Yeah. So if it doesn't make sense to you yet, and you're hearing this and you're like, that, just wait. Just wait. Just wait. You'll get it at some point.
Oh my gosh. All right. So tell us who had the biggest impact on you in your life.
Yeah, certainly my mother, has been a huge, she's, the person that gave birth to you and raises you up. And my mother's always been a working woman, a very professional woman. Nice. She's actually retired from the Secret Service. And so, watched her through these different points of her life, and as a military spouse, moving around the world and juggling that. And then I think as I then moved into kind of my independent life and have then, this whole kind of toe out of the op thing, certainly Tanya Lanthier from Dental Post. I mean, the fact that she stopped and, said, hey, do you want a job? I mean, this world opened up. And then people like Jackie Sanders of RDH Magazine, who said, hey, Amanda, do you want to write something? and, and has always encouraged me. And then Sandra Berger, who then taught me how to write CE, like really good. Like I'm kind of an objective snob now because I know too much. So thank you, Sandra. But, so those women, it's funny. It's all women, isn't it? Those women that were so abundant in their mindset that didn't see, oh, who's this whippersnapper coming in thinking she knows stuff, but saying, no, come on in, there's room. And I want to be able to give you this opportunity and let you know that, that you're worthy to be here. And so it's really been really impactful in my journey so far.
I want to elaborate on that a little bit because, I, in my journey in dentistry, have only met one woman not willing to put their hand back and help the next person. And I was so taken aback by it. And it was, within the last 10 years that I had an interaction with this person. I was so taken aback by it because in general, everybody in the field is extremely open and willing to help you do what you want to do. And quite honestly, I think when we help somebody else get to where they want to go, it helps us. So it's not like you're doing it to service them. I mean, service of other people is always going to benefit everybody.
Right.
But I remember seeing that, and I remember thinking to myself, wow, that's the first time I've ever seen a woman in this field not be willing to help the next person.
Yeah. So let's hope there's less of those and there's more of us that are just willing to be like, yeah, come on.
There's plenty of room.
Happy to support you. But I want to tell you one thing, like when we talk about, supporting someone, I have a lot of people, and I'm sure you do too, that reach out to me and say, I want to do what you do, or how do you do what you do, or how did you get to where you are? And many of them want they want it to be easy. They want it to be quick. And if you reach out to somebody and someone takes the time to, spend time with you and talk to you, I want to encourage you to be ready to do the work. And I'm not saying that try to be negative, but that none of this is like simple, like, oh, I want to speak. Can you get me on the big stage? I can't. But I can tell you how I got there, and I'll support you and cheer you on along the way. All of this takes a lot of work and dedication.
Mm-hmm. Yep. You're so right. You're so right. It took 35 years for me to have the courage to go to dental school.
Yeah.
And then,
Right?
and so that's basically in hygiene, I didn't do any of this. I didn't do leadership, but all the opportunities that I was given after I finished dental school has led to where I am today. And, just an interaction has led to this podcast for whatever reason. So yeah, you're right. Yeah. Be willing to do the work and take the action steps that you need to take, because it is not easy.
No,
just
and it's scary.
Yeah, it is scary. You got to keep Nellie under control.
Exactly. Just tell her to be quiet.
Exactly.
And if you don't know who Nellie is, because you're too young, think Cressida from Bridgerton. It's just like Cressida.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. I love Bridgerton too.
Yeah.
All right. So have you had an aha moment? And I'll just ask the question, you answer whatever comes first, where you realize you're doing exactly what you were meant to do?
Oh, I got to tell you, I mean, that mega stage.
That's what I figured you were
at Under One Roof. But I mean, I still think it's been 2 weeks. It's been 2 weeks and a day since I did it, and I still think I'm still tingling from it. The reaction from people at all of the points that I was trying to make, the stories that I wove in pictures of the speakers that were to come at RDH Under One Roof. I got pictures of them when they were 5 years old and had it all throughout the presentation, and like how people connected with that. And then, man, like I killed it.
Awesome.
I killed it.
And be proud of that. Good for you that you can say it out loud.
Yes.
Excellent.
Yes. And I didn't even say, forgive me for saying it. I wanted to.
No,
it came in my head and I was like, nope, you don't have to say that part. You get to just say, I did a really, really good job.
Obviously.
And I'm so proud of it.
Excellent. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's awesome. All right. So what obstacle or challenge have you had in your career that you're really proud of that you overcame?
A big one is my own doggone head. Like getting out of my own darn way has been huge. But I gotta tell you this, switching gears, sort of like I did, going from really, being a mom and a wife and, kind of a part-time dental hygienist was really the majority of my career. And switching that into becoming this, full-time speaker and writer was challenging for my family. And I did it at the stage where my two oldest kids were out of the house and my youngest was still in high school, but it really changed the dynamic of our family. I wasn't there all the time. I'd go away, I'd go to meetings, and who was going to cook the dinner and who was going to do the laundry and who was going to clean the house and who was going to do all of the things that miraculously the fairies came and did when I was home. And I'm really proud of how my family bumped along, and I'm going to say bumped along. It was bumpy in the beginning of figuring out how to change how we've always done things. And so me setting some boundaries around, like, I know this, I used to do this, but now you guys are going to have to come in and be a part of that. And so that was a real challenge. It was hard. It was hard to do that. It was hard to say that I wasn't going to be in charge of everything. It was hard to partially let some of it go and let people do it their way. And so I'm really proud that we have hit just a much healthier spot, that we're better for it, I think. But it was hard.
Unbelievable. I'll share with the audience in case you haven't heard this part of my story. I got into dental school. My first set of exams, there was 4 of them. I failed both. Course 2 out of the 4 courses at 40 with a 48. So I didn't fail a little bit. I failed like, oh shit, I could have made the biggest mistake of my life, or something's got to change. And I remember going home that night, and I remember saying to my husband, I said, okay, things have got to change. And I remember looking right at him and saying, because I'm doing this, you've signed up for daycare and getting her to school every day, picking her up and figuring out, we got to do this together. We got to figure out who's going to take her. Somebody's got to pick her up after school because I have to study.
Yeah.
And everything changed then. And, fortunately, it did not impact my daughter negatively because she saw mom studying. And one of the best things I could have done at that moment in time, although the mom guilt will be forever with me, is that I never had to worry about her studying because she just did it automatically. And she did it without question every day after school because she did not want to miss her TV time at nighttime. So she had everything done before dinner time. And so there's a lot of benefit that came from that. So don't think so much about the negative side, about you not being home, about the house being dirty. Oh my God, I can remember there was days where I said, oh my gosh, I can't study. The house is dirty. No, freaking study first and the house will still be there. It's not like but in our mind, I think for me, it's everything has to be neat and organized.
Oh yeah.
So that my ability to study stays neat and organized.
Right.
Even now when my desk is a disheveled mess, I can't keep my thoughts organized and I have to clean it first before I can get to work. So I think it helps me focus for whatever reason.
Yeah, me too. I'm the same way. But yeah, I love that you had that same kind of thing where you had to kind of pause and say, okay, I'm going to make this work. I gotta figure out how to set some boundaries and how to make this dream come true.
Yeah. Unbelievable. So when you have a tough day, what do you do to kind of switch your, we that our vibrations, right, either bring us good things or bad things. And so the more negative we have, the more negative things happen in our lives. And it just seems like it's instantaneous sometimes.
Oh yeah.
What do you do to get back on track and be positive?
I gotta tell you, my dog is like the best therapy of all time because you can't be sad. You cannot be sad when you have a yellow puppy to cuddle with or to walk with or just to, to sit and pet. I think our animals are amazing for helping us break that stress cycle, to really decrease that stress cycle. Certainly, physical activity is big for me. I'd make sure that I exercise every day. And that I think helps even, maybe pre-optimizes my day for, being able to handle stress. but just going for a long walk and just trying to chill out. And it's sometimes just zoning out with mindless television is also that might be distracting. That might, like, some therapist out there might be like, that is not healthy. And I'll be like, just a minute. I just need to escape it for a minute. Okay.
Exactly. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that as long as you're not doing it every day, day in and
Yeah.
day out.
Yeah.
All right. Do you have a guilty pleasure or a secret dream that you would like to share with the audience?
Lately, my guilty pleasure is binging the Olympics because it's on right now. And I got to tell
Yeah.
you, my productivity is like very nil because I'm so distracted by these amazing athletes. But I think a guilty pleasure is probably turning on some 80s music and dancing is really a fun thing for me to do, and just to kind of chill out and get my willies out. That I don't know that it's really a secret though, because people see me do it all the time, but I love dancing and I'm terrible at it, but I don't really care anymore.
Who cares?
I don't care. I really don't care anymore. And so I'd say dancing's pretty fun.
How about a secret dream? Anything?
Oh, I gotta tell you, one of my secret dreams was to be on that
On the mega stage. And you so now you have to create a new one.
I know. I got to come up with a new dream, like bigger and better.
That's right.
I don't even know. Like, this was a dream that I didn't even know I could dream, and then it happens. And, it's just an amazing thing. So yeah, that was definitely on my list, and look at it. Yeah.
Awesome.
I think I would love to be a grandmother one day. I've got, 3 kids, and the oldest is married. I don't know if she'll have kids. I don't see that in her future, but we'll see about the other 2. That'd be fun.
Well, I'll tell you, it's the second best job ever.
I bet.
First was being mom, and the second best was being Mimi. That's what they call me.
Mimi. I love it.
Yeah. All right. So how about a personal motto or mantra that you live by?
Oh, well, one of my favorite quotes is a Ram Dass quote. And it's we're all walking each other home.
Mm-hmm.
And even saying it, like, I feel it.
I did too. I just
right. You're like, And I think that so much in our society today, we forget what it's about. We are so polarized and clickbaited and made to be angry and upset. And if we could pause and take a deep breath and remember that we are all people.
Yeah.
And we are all walking each other home.
That's a great one. Oh my gosh, that's a great one.
Yeah.
I have done a lot of broad proctor stuff. And one of the things that stuck with me is, we're here on this physical plane and a physical body, but we're living a spiritual and an intellectual life. And we have choice. And we're the only one, so far as we know, that has the ability to choose. And so we can choose the negative path or the positive path. It's our choice, but none of it is from God. It's all from us. And so we have a choice to experience life to its fullest in its positive expression. Mm-hmm. But we choose, we're the ones that choose not to. So I remind myself of that, try to remind myself of that every day. That's key.
If in the end, the one thing that people said about me was that she was kind, that's good. That's good for me.
That is really good.
Yeah.
All right. So for someone young about to enter the field of dentistry, what piece of advice would you give them? Male or female, it doesn't really matter. But what piece of advice would you give them?
I would tell you to stay curious. Find that curious 5-year-old. In fact, print out a picture of yourself at 5 and frame it and put it on your desk, or make it your screensaver on your phone. And remember how curious that 5-year-old is, and be curious about yourself. Learn about who you are and your strengths. Take all those personality tests and those strength finders, and figure out what you are good at and be the best you. Be curious about you and who you are, not who everybody else is, but who you are. Learning how you best process emotion and you best process stress and all of those kind of things. And then, particularly as you're entering this world of dentistry, like, always be curious about our profession, because it is changing and it is fun when you continue to stay curious. Like when you take real CE, not like the phone it in CE where like you turn on the webinar and you leave and fold laundry and you come back and you get the code. Like really diving in and learning to be curious about new products, new innovations, new way to take care of patients. And then carry that curiosity from that education and carry that curiosity into your patient care and being curious about your patients, always remembering that they are an expert in them. You got dentistry down, but they are an expert in them. And the two, that you must be curious about their needs and their wants and their why. And if you find their why, their motivator, then you'll have a much easier road in treatment acceptance and keeping patients happy. And then the last key to curiosity, I think, is to be curious about your team. So whoever you're working with.
Yeah.
And remembering that sometimes we are not showing up as our best selves, and remembering to be curious and helping to find people, having hard conversations and knowing how to get through some of those, not just sweeping things under the rug or letting people gossip in the back, but really having those great conversations about being curious about who we are and what makes us tick and what's going on in each other's lives. And I think if we're curious in all of those ways, and we keep in that state of curiosity, I think you'll be successful.
I couldn't agree more. Absolutely great advice.
Yeah.
Now I want to switch it a little bit. Same question, but what piece of advice would you give your 5-year-old self?
Oh man, my 5-year-old self, I would just tell her that, look out, kiddo. There's nothing that you can't do. You can do it all.
Yeah.
Continue to feed into yourself and just keep doing things and do them scared.
Perfect. All right. Last question. How do you define success?
It's joy. Success is joy. It's that joyful feeling in your chest, that in your heart and in your head, and you just feel lighter knowing that you are doing what you were put on earth to do. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's success.
That's awesome. And I already know the answer to this part of the question, which is, do you feel successful?
I do. I feel
it exudes all over you. It does.
Successful. I mean, yes, I am getting to do some of the coolest stuff, and it's the stuff that I truly believe I was meant to do.
But you're making the choice to do it also, even though it's hard, even though you're afraid.
Yep.
Fear is just, an emotion that we create. It's not a natural emotion. It's something that we create to keep us safe, right?
Absolutely.
But safe doesn't help you in your career.
And I've sort of learned there's two different feelings. There's when somebody brings me an opportunity, there's a feeling that's like, ooh, that's scary. I don't know if I can do that. That's when I need to say yes. Mm-hmm. If somebody brings me an opportunity, I'm like, that doesn't sound fun. Then that's when I say no.
Perfect way to figure it out.
Yeah.
Perfect. You have been an amazing guest, Amanda.
Thank you for having me.
For your time and spending and giving us so many pearls to take away. I mean, I have no doubts that this is going to be a well listened to podcast for sure. If anybody wants to get in touch with you for speaking, whatever the case may be, or mentorship, how can they reach you?
So I'm Amanda Hill RDH across pretty much everything. So amandahillrdh@gmail.com, Amanda Hill RDH on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. So you can definitely find me in any of those platforms. Please reach out. I'm more than happy to talk to you, and more than happy to come do speaking engagements or just be French. Just walk home with you.
There you go. Oh my gosh, so lovely. I will just tell the audience that everything will be underneath the page on our YouTube channel, so that you can just click the link and go and see Amanda at any time you want. Amanda, thank you so much for being with me today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. This has been a pleasure.
Thank you so much for listening to the Women in Dentistry podcast with Dr. MJ Hanlon. If you like our show and want to know more about us, check out our website, thewomenindentistry.com, or please leave us a review on iTunes. Join us for our next episode as we bring you another amazing woman leading the way for the next generation.